You wake up tomorrow morning, reach for your phone, and nothing. Gmail won't open. YouTube is gone. Google Maps? Vanished. Your Android phone is basically a brick. Now here's the scary part. This isn't just about losing a search engine. We're talking about the complete collapse of a digital empire that quietly runs about 90% of the internet searches worldwide. An empire so massive that if it disappeared right now, the global economy would lose approximately $4.5 billion per day. So what would actually happen if Google just disappeared? Let's find out. The first 60 seconds. The chaos would be immediate. Let me walk you through what the first minute would look like. It's 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. Office workers around the world try to check their Gmail. Nothing. Students trying to submit assignments through Google Classroom. Error messages everywhere. That important Zoom meeting you scheduled through Google Calendar. Nobody knows it's happening anymore. But here's where it gets really interesting and really messy. About 2.5 billion people use Android phones globally. Within seconds of Google's servers going dark, these devices start malfunctioning. Sure, you can make calls, but the Google Play Store, gone. Which means no app updates, no new downloads, nothing. Every Android app that relies on Google's authentication services suddenly stops working. And we haven't even talked about businesses yet. Small businesses that rely on Google My Business for customers. They've just become invisible. Companies using Google Workspace, that's Gmail, Drive, Docs, Sheets, the whole suite, they've lost access to years of files, emails, and documents. Just gone, no warning. YouTube creators who make their living from ad revenue. Their income just dropped to zero. We're talking about millions of content creators worldwide who suddenly have no platform and no paycheck coming the first 24 hours. Now, let's talk about what happens when the sun sets on day one. The advertising industry would be in an absolute freefall. Google Ads generates about $237 billion annually. That's not just Google's money. That's money flowing to millions of websites, blogs, and content creators who depend on AdSense. Within 24 hours, numerous online publishers would scramble to find alternative revenue sources. Many wouldn't make it. Here's something most people don't realize: Google Cloud services power a massive chunk of the internet. We're talking about services like Spotify, Twitter, Snapchat, and thousands more. When Google goes down, they go down to the internet as we know it, would shrink dramatically overnight. Education systems worldwide would grind to a halt. During the pandemic, millions of students became dependent on Google Classroom. Teachers share lessons through Google Drive. Schools communicate through Gmail. All of that infrastructure, gone. Teachers would have to go back to printed handouts and physical textbooks, assuming schools even have enough to go around anymore. Let's talk navigation. Before Google Maps, people used paper maps or asked for directions. But here's the thing. We've built our entire delivery and logistics infrastructure around digital mapping. Food delivery apps, they all use the Google Maps API. Uber and Lyft, Google Maps, Amazon delivery drivers, Google Maps, the entire gig economy would collapse within hours. Businesses would lose around $400 billion in the first month alone. That's from lost productivity, advertising revenue, cloud services, and the complete disruption of digital commerce. And that's a conservative estimate. By day 7, we'd start seeing the real structural damage. Competitors would try to fill the void, obviously. Microsoft's Bing would suddenly be handling billions of search queries it's not equipped to manage. DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, they'd all be overwhelmed. The internet would slow to a crawl because the infrastructure just isn't there to handle Google's volume. But here's what nobody talks about. Google SAI and machine learning models power countless services beyond their own products. Healthcare systems use Google's AI for diagnostic tools. Environmental researchers rely on Google Earth Engine to track climate change. Language translation services, most of them run on Google's technology. Scientific research would take a massive hit. Google Scholar has made academic papers accessible to millions of researchers worldwide. Without it, we go back to the old system of expensive database subscriptions and physically visiting libraries. Research in developing countries where scientists depend on free tools would slow dramatically. The job market would go haywire. About 135,000 Google employees would be out of work immediately. But the ripple effects, we're talking about millions of jobs. App developers who build for Android, Marketing agencies that specialize in Google Ads, YouTubers, bloggers, SEO specialists, entire industries would evaporate. Small businesses would be hit the hardest. A local restaurant that depended on Google reviews and Google Maps for visibility, customers literally can't find them anymore. An online store that showed up on Google Shopping, their traffic would drop by 80% or more overnight. And here's something weird that would happen. People would start calling businesses again. Remember when you'd call a restaurant to get directions or check if they're open? We'd go back to that. Phone books might actually make a comeback. Wild, right? The long-term consequences? Let's jump ahead a few months and look at what the new normal would be. Other companies would rise to fill the vacuum, but it would take years. Apple would probably expand its services. Microsoft would have a golden opportunity. Maybe we'd see a dozen regional search engines pop up instead of one global giant. Competition could actually increase, which might be better for consumers in the long run. But innovation would slow dramatically. Google's research divisions are working on quantum computing, AI, healthcare technology, and renewable energy. All of that research, frozen. We might lose a decade of technological advancement. The internet itself would look completely different. Without Google's algorithms organizing information, we'd need new ways to find things online. Maybe we'd go back to categorized directories like the old Yahoo. Maybe social media would become the primary way people discover content. The whole structure of online information would need to be rebuilt. Governments would step in, obviously. There'd be emergency measures to keep essential services running. Maybe they'd nationalize some of Google's infrastructure. We might see regulations preventing any single company from becoming this dominant again. Here's the positive spin. Maybe we'd become less dependent on a single corporation. People would diversify, use different email providers, different maps, and different search engines. The internet could become more decentralized again, more like it was in the early days. Privacy advocates would probably be relieved. Google knows more about us than any entity in human history. Every search, every email, every location you visited, it's all in their servers. Without Google tracking everything, we might actually get some privacy back. So what's the real answer? What would happen if Google disappeared overnight? In short, chaos, followed by adaptation, followed by a completely restructured digital world. We'd lose trillions in economic value. Billions of people would be disrupted. Industries would collapse. But humanity is resilient. We'd figure it out. We'd build alternatives. Life would go on. But here's what this thought experiment really reveals. We've handed way too much power to a single company. Google is so deeply embedded in our daily lives that imagining a world without it feels almost apocalyptic. That's not healthy. That's not sustainable. Maybe the real question isn't what if Google disappeared. Maybe it's what should we do to make sure we're not this dependent on any single company ever again? Because right now, Google going down for even an hour causes global disruption. For a full day, economic catastrophe. Forever, we'd be looking at one of the biggest disruptions in modern history. Something to think about next time you type a question into that search bar. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you want more thought experiments like this. And let me know in the comments, what do you think would be the worst part about losing Google? See you in the next one.